Okay, hopefully that's better. All right. I don't want any sound here. Hey, Mary. So, Mary, I'm glad you came on because I definitely want to shout out right from the beginning um, PayPal for this live tonight because I attended hey, Lynette, I attended the PayPal statewide meeting this past Tuesday, and the information was so great that I felt like I wanted to use my live this week to share some of the information because, as we know, a lot of people can't make it to all of these meetings, even if they want to. And so I just wanted to share some of the resources and a lot of the great information that I learned. So I'm really excited. Lynette, who came on, yeah, was there, and it was so good. It was so much great information. So I'm going to do my best to um, put the information that I learned out there. Disclaimer, of course, I was learning the information. And so I'm not an expert on this, but I thought that there was a lot of good information. So I'm going to give all of my understanding of the topic to everybody tonight. And I have a bunch of resources to give at the end, which I'll tag the links to as well at the end of the video. So big shout out, huge shout out to PayPal, paypal.net. I know I shout out that website a lot on here. This was a great topic, and hopefully this person or another person maybe will be coming back at another point to talk about guardianship again, because I think that it's a really important topic and it should be a yearly, like annual subject. So, Mary, my vote again, because I feel like there were so many questions and the information was amazing. So, the person who presented at the statewide meeting, her name was, now my ceiling fan is going to blow this all away. Oh, another disclaimer, Aiden is downstairs cooking pancakes, and I'm hoping that the fire alarm doesn't go off while I'm on here. You guys might have to chat amongst yourselves if that happens. Okay, so the person who presented at the PayPal conference was Professor Sarah Boonin, Boonin, from Suffolk University Law School and Massachusetts Guardianship Association Vice President. She was super awesome. One of the great things that she said is that she does do some pro bono work. She didn't talk about what that entails, but I think it's important information to put out there because the cost of all of the things that we as families incur raising our kids and trying to support their needs is huge. And oftentimes the price of attorneys or other people that have this type of expertise and specialty is really difficult. Um, so hopefully, um, if anybody comes across this video, it may be worth reaching out to her and seeing what she does. I don't know what that is, but it's just an option to put out there. So she talked about guardianship. And so for anybody who's on that's learning or hasn't thought about guardianship, guardianship is a question that many families come up against when they are looking at their a young adult child. Usually it's 16, 17, I think, is the time where people seriously start thinking about whether or not it makes sense to go after guardianship for their child as they turn 18 years old and become a legal adult, and what that really entails. And the process of guardianship definitely one of my major takeaways is that this isn't a cut and dry um, topic. It's not easily navigated. I think it was really clear that having somebody, whether it's an attorney or somebody who has an expertise in guardianship and how to obtain guardianship, it would be very useful to be able to have somebody to help guide you through not only what all of the different options mean, but also the paperwork, appearing in court, what it means over the long term, all of those things. So there are lots of things to consider. So I have tons of notes, which I'm going to use tonight because I want to try to get as much information as I can. So again, these are my notes from the presentation by Miss Boonen, who was great, by the way. So one of the major topics was, you know, what are your duties as a guardian? How do you make the decision, right? So knowing what your duties are. And those duties are to make decisions to support um, care, education, health, and welfare. So those are the topics or categories, I should say, in which you would be making decisions on as somebody's legal guardian. Supporting their care, educational decisions, their health, and their general welfare. Um, Also, there are some things that you would be protecting their freedom of religion. You would be having there would be reasonable diligence associated with your guardianship. So the point isn't to like take over and be the CEO per se of somebody else's life, but really to make sure that you're helping this person to navigate what can be a very complex system. Just want to make sure that my comments are coming in because last time I missed some. Hey, Lindsay. Hi, Auntie Nancy. And Lynette, thank you for putting up a resource for a guardian attorney that you're working with. So if anybody's looking for another person, there is a link in the comments for that from Lynette Casey. I'm getting used to that, girl. So it really varies, what can happen and what the different types of guardianship are and what a guardian can do. So let me see here. So guardianship is forever. That was one of the major themes. Once, if you are appointed a guardian, you are the guardian forever. The only way that that guardianship is removed would be if somebody brought a new petition to the court to remove guardianship. So that could be the person that you have guardianship of, or it could also be a person that may be petitioning to get guardianship or doesn't think the guardianship is appropriate. But if none of that happens, once you're a guardian, you're the guardian forever. And generally, my understanding is that the courts look at guardianship as always being the last resort. Um, it was pretty clear that courts take people coming in and being guardianships very seriously, and it's not taken lightly because this is something that is ongoing and forever. And so are there other ways that you can be a supportive person in the life of your child or the life of a person over 18 that you're looking to potentially have guardianship of? And so all of those things would be part of the discussion when you're having looking into guardianship. Um, this is because when you have guardianship, you are taking away a person's basic legal rights to make decisions, and so that is why the courts um, look so deeply and consider it so much before they make a decision. Hi, Jen. Um, court systems, Miss Boonen was very honest that oftentimes court systems struggle with appointing a guardianship based on mental health because of the fluidity of the way that somebody who has mental health diagnoses can present. So oftentimes, or as we all know, mental health and treating mental health is kind of a long and winding road, as I always say. And there are times where people are presenting very well and other times where they're really struggling. And it's very different than medical decisions, right? And that's part of the thing that we are always talking about related to stigma in other areas. And so it also bleeds into this conversation with guardianship. Um, the system is designed to maximize an individual's independence. And so if an individual's independence is going to be potentially taken and given to somebody else in this way, it can be an uphill battle, which is why she said it's often best to discuss with somebody who is an attorney or an expert, because everybody in every family is different and individualized. So there's no real broad brushstroke. Um, Also, folks who have intellectual disabilities, the paperwork can be very daunting, and more daunting than other areas where you may be looking to obtain guardianship. And so typically when it may be necessary is obviously when an individual turns 18 and becomes a legal adult. Um, and the parent really feels like they need to be um, empowered to help make legal decisions or make decisions for that person who has a mental health diagnosis, or other times that people would go for guardianship. Um, so she talked a lot about things that come up around guardianship that are often can be disqualifying for lack of my legal knowledge and vocabulary. But when guardianship may be deemed unnecessary, um, would be if the person has mental health diagnoses, but they really are deemed that they're able to make their own decisions and have decision making ability. Hi, Jen. Welcome back from your vacation, back to reality. Um, so one thing that was discussed at length was the difference between a healthcare proxy and guardianship. And this was a conversation that happened a lot throughout the meeting. And I think the healthcare proxy in many ways seems like a good second option. But for parents and for families or others that are looking to pursue guardianship, the biggest thing about a healthcare proxy is that at any point it can be revoked. And so, if your son or daughter or granddaughter has assigned you as a healthcare proxy and you are making decisions past 18 years old and things are going well, then that could be great and it could be all that you ever need. But the challenge with it is that if that person, for whatever reason, decides that they want to revoke the healthcare proxy, there's no legal ramification, um, or there's no proceeding per se. It's literally a piece of paper. So what I took from that, and this is my own personal opinion, and everybody's situation is different. Um, but anybody who listens to me or knows me knows that I really believe in a team-based approach. I really believe in a family-driven and youth-guided approach at all times. And so to me, this conversation between guardianship and healthcare proxy really enlightens that conversation about how teams are working together, how youth are being engaged throughout their years of treatment, especially I think for youth that have spent a lot of time out of the home, either at one point or in and out of different levels of care. Oftentimes I see youth that feel very disempowered and don't feel that their voice is heard in their treatment. They don't attend meetings, and so the healthcare proxy, the fact that they can revoke it, I think really can oftentimes be built on the foundation of how well that youth has been engaged through their years of treatment, how well family work has been done, how much family driven treatment and family centered care has been prioritized. Because if you have that real working relationship at some point with your child that is now an adult, coming into the adult world, them knowing that they are decision makers in their care is really important. And knowing that there are ramifications and consequences, good and bad, to the decisions that they make. So, the healthcare proxy, you can have two people on the healthcare proxy. Um, but at any time, it can be revoked by the individual who has assigned anybody as their healthcare proxy. But it's a great alternative or solution to guardianship, which is a longer process and is forever and permanent. So it's another thing to think about. You can have an expert or an attorney work with you on the healthcare proxy. It can be as limiting or as broad as it needs to be to really engage that youth in signing a healthcare proxy that can really go the distance in terms of making decisions. So it's a good alternative and something to think about. If you are already a healthcare proxy, one of the things that she said is if you know you're the healthcare proxy but you don't have the paper, get the piece of paper. Because oftentimes, if a youth has been in a hospitalization or in another setting, they may have already signed a healthcare proxy, but it's living in that medical record. So you really want to obtain that healthcare proxy so you have that piece of paper as the person that's assigned the healthcare proxy. Lindsay just posted a link. Lindsay, if you have a second, could you just comment under that link and just describe what it is? So it's www.honoringchoicesmass.com, which sounds like an amazing resource. So I'd love to know more about that or have it for other people to know a little bit more about it. So the process in terms of guardianship, it goes through probate court. It is typically 3 to 6 months long for the process to go through. Anyone can petition to be a guardian. It doesn't just have to be a parent or a caregiver. It could be a neighbor, a sibling, a friend. So there are no limitations on somebody applying and petitioning the court to be a guardian. And there can also be co-petitioners for guardianship. So it doesn't have to be just one person appointed the guardian. It can be more than one person that is appointed as the guardian. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I just want to make sure I have all of my notes are a little like left, right, and center. Okay. There is limited guardians and plenary guardianship. So plenary is like the full boat. You're the whole guardian. Limited guardianship is something else that can be applied for, and that considers a person's capacities and is tailored to the person's functional limitations. So I want to say that one more time because I think it's really important. It considers the person's capacities that you're petitioning the court to be the guardian of, and it is tailored to the person's functional limitations. So instead of having full guardianship of every decision over a person's life, it's really considered where are the specific areas that as a guardian, it seems like it would be necessary or in the best interest of that individual, of your child, to obtain guardianship. Another great option that they talk about under this is the durable power of attorney. So somebody can assign you as their power of attorney, which gives you the option to make all of their legal decisions. So there's a lot. Hi, Mark. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. Um, there's some great comments in coming in to our conversation tonight. So this is amazing. If you're joining the live now, please scroll back through other comments that have been on there because there's a lot of great comments. So Mark is saying I've used the power of attorney with a healthcare proxy language combined. You can also work with provider by provider basis at 18 with new intake, some partial or conditional, and it's relatively easy guardianship for persons both with mental health and cognitive issues. So that's wonderful. And it does depend on your relationship. So Mark, thank you for adding that comment and for providing your experience. I think it's really helpful for people who are thinking about it. I know when I was attending the PPAL meeting, which is where I got most of this information, many people were there thinking about how would they be approaching potentially petitioning a court for guardianship because they have children that are kind of in that transitional age youth. So thank you for sharing your personal experience. So some other pivotal points in terms of obtaining guardianship that are considered that I think are worth mentioning is if there is a history of the individual refusing to engage with services. Obviously, if they're turning 18, we know that's a pivotal point. If there's a reoccurrence of mental health episodes, so if there's been multiple hospitalizations, if there have been civil commitments, if there have been multiple occurrences of this nature that have happened with your child or the person that you're looking to potentially petition guardianship for, these are really pivotal pieces of information that a court will likely take into consideration. So let's see. I just want to make sure I have all of the baseline about the guardian before I talk about some of the concerns. A lot were questions that people brought up that were really good concerns. So what can a guardian not do? They cannot revoke a healthcare proxy. They cannot hospitalize someone. You don't have the ability to section a person. That's a decision that would be made the same way that it would have been if there were previous hospitalizations through a clinical assessment. And you cannot authorize treatment that is considered extraordinary. So this was something that was a real hot button piece of information that we talked about or was discussed in the room. So some examples of what are considered extraordinary treatments would be sterilization, electric shock therapy. There's another name for it now, I think, ECT. There were a number of examples, but the biggest one is that under the guardianship laws, antipsychotics are considered an extraordinary treatment. Antipsychotics. So a lot of people in the room were really concerned about that because they have children that have been on antipsychotics or will likely be on antipsychotics, and how to navigate that. That was a really big concern for many people. And so there is a way to approach that. It's called a Rogers order. And the Rogers is basically the petitioning as part of the guardianship for the use of antipsychotic medications. It will look at the history. The court will look at the history, take into account all of those different factors, and then it's reviewed on an annual basis. So it was very concerning and is an additional thing to think about if you're going for guardianship. Mark and Lynette, thank you for sharing your your remarks related to the Rogers, because I think that it is an extra thing that folks need to be aware of, related to antipsychotics. So let's see. Oh, the other thing is if the person after 18 decides to leave the state and you're the guardian, what happens? So Massachusetts, along with many other states, has um, put into place that if you are the guardian of a person that moves to another state, you can send all of your information to the other state to make sure that that state is aware that you are the guardian of this individual. So most likely you shouldn't have any challenges if you are the guardian of an adult person who decides to take residency in a different state. So one of the other things, so definitely the Rogers, I think, was one of the really hot topics. The other was, what is the liability of somebody who decides that they are going to assume or guardianship or thinking about petitioning for guardianship? What is your liability for yourself as an individual, for your own home, for other children in the home, all of those other types of um, potential liabilities when you have guardianship. Um, I have my mood lighting, so it's not the best for reading notes. um, so the law expresses that a guardian is not liable for the actions of another person. So you, as guardian, would not be guardian assume responsibility for something that somebody else does, even if you are their legal guardian. That doesn't give you the liability. However, if you are, like many of us are, the parent of multiple children, and you have one child in the home that may be exhibiting other behaviors, other significant types of behaviors. Um, Sorry, I'm getting a random like pop up. If they're exhibiting other types of behaviors, dangerous behaviors, it doesn't remove you from the potential of somebody filing a neglect with the Department of Children and Families, contacting law enforcement if they feel that the other children in the home are potentially in danger based on the presentation of your child or the person that you have taken guardianship of. So it is definitely something to be aware of. I know at the end of the um, meeting, there were a lot of people that were talking about the fact that they have chosen to get additional types of insurances. So Lynette's actually commenting now that now carries umbrella insurance. Um, and because that's something that she has chosen to do to protect um, her family and her liabilities and assets, I would assume. So umbrella coverage and umbrella insurance is something that a lot of families choose to pursue. I don't have a lot of specific information with it. It's not something that I have done. Lynette, if you're comfortable sharing more information about what umbrella insurance is, so anybody in the comments can read it, that would be helpful. But don't feel like you have to share anything personal. But many people may not even know what umbrella insurance is, how to obtain it, and what it protects them from. Um, so there were some other things that were talked about in terms of guardianship, end of life treatment, life sustaining decisions, if somebody were on life support, those sorts of different things could potentially be part of a guardianship as well. But I think the major pieces are the things that I have spoken about so far. Um, there's one other piece that I just wanted to talk about here, just related to the ongoing topic of addiction and mental health, and are they together, are they not? It's something that it sounds like the courts are still struggling with, and of course here in Massachusetts and in many parts of the country right now there is an opioid epidemic happening, and so there's somebody that is committed due to a mental health diagnosis, and temporary guardianship can be put in place in an emergency situation. That's one process. And then there is another process related to addiction, which is a section 35. And that is if somebody is a danger to themselves or others based on their current substance use. So there are two kind of, they're looked at currently, it sounded like, as two different types of avenues in terms of the way that the court looks at if a person is going to be committed, if a person, if you have guardianship of a person that is struggling with their mental health and addiction. So I'm somebody who believes that they go hand in hand. Um, and so that could be an additional challenge related to guardianship. So there's been a lot of great comments that have been coming in, and I really appreciate lots of the resources that people have been putting up. I think it's really great information. This is a really important topic. There are a lot of kids that are 16, 17, 18 years old. And I know the 16, 17, and 18-year olds don't like to be called kids, but I mean, when you're a parent, I feel like your kid's always your kid, regardless of what their age is. So there's a lot of kids, transitional age youth, at 16, 17, 18, and this is a really big consideration for families to think about and the process to go through. So I want to give out some guardianship resources, and I will put all of these on the live when I get off, so you'll have the links. Um, so there's the Massachusetts Guardianship Association, which is massguardianshipassociation.org. And on that website, you can actually find a handbook from Massachusetts Guardians, which would be a really great reference point if you're thinking about guardianship, or if you're already a guardian and you just need to make sure that you know what it is that you're doing. So Lynette just put up a brief description of what umbrella insurance is. Thank you, Lynette, for doing that. I appreciate it. If you are looking for the forms that you need to file for guardianship, you would be doing that through the Massachusetts court system. And that is mass.gov. I'm just going to put the link up because it's like 15 like backslashes. So mass.gov. I'm sure if you go onto their search engine and you search guardianship, or forms, they have a forms page. You'll be able to find it, but I will put the direct link so that you can just click to it because it's really long. Also on mass.gov is the major department. So the Department of Developmental Services, DDS, which is going to be mass.gov slash EOHHS. I don't think this is their website anymore. I think it's I think you can at this point just put mass.gov slash DDS. DMH is definitely, I know, mass.gov slash DMH, Department of Mental Health. And again, I'll put all of these links up for you. In terms of legal resources, you can contact the Mental Health Legal Advisors Committee, and their website is their acronym. So www.mhlc MHLAC. M is in mental, H is in health, L is in legal, A is in advisor, C is in committee, .org. So that's a place for legal. You can also contact the Volunteer Lawyers Project. This is for pro bono attorneys. So there are many families that cannot afford legal representation. It's a great resource. For guardianship cases, you would go to www.vlpnet.org. And then there's also the Mass Legal Services, and that is masslegalservices.org, as well as the Massachusetts Court Service Center. And they provide free legal information and assistance with forms. So this was something that the presenter at the PPAL conference, again, her name was Sarah Boonin, from the Massachusetts Guardianship Association. She was talking about this being sort of sounded like an underutilized resource. So the Massachusetts Court Service Centers, you can look that up and find a location near you. There's also the Lawyer of the Day, which I know most people know about in different courthouses. They have lawyers of the day that can help with forms, but this is something different than that. So you would want to look up where your closest Mass Court Service Center is to support you in obtaining some free legal information and help with filling out any of the legal forms. Let's see if there's any other things. I think I got all of the things. There were lots of great handouts. I'm not sure if Mary is still on, but Mary, if you're on or if you come back to this, if you could post, if you guys have a link for the Lawyer of the Day handout. So they gave out the Lawyer of the Day schedule, but there's not a website where this came from. But you can contact any court, any probate court that services your area and just ask them what days the Lawyer of the Day is in. I will tell you, as somebody who has worked in this field for a really long time, if you are going to be going in for Lawyer of the Day, your best bet is to get there first thing in the morning, like when the door is open, because it's a first come, first serve service and it's very helpful and they will sit with you, but they're typically only there for a certain number of hours per day. And so you want to get in and get your name on the list, and then it's waiting until your turn. So if you're going to access the Lawyer of the Day, which is a great resource, definitely make sure that you get there in enough time that you hopefully will be able to be seen. So Lynette, I think all probate courts have them. So I'm not going to go through all the dates and times, but on this list are Barnstable, Boston. So a couple of Boston courts, Brockton, Cambridge, Canton, Fall River. Let's see, Lawrence, Nantucket, Pittsfield. So I think that most of them, this seems like most of them, have Lawyers of the Day. Plymouth, Salem, Taunton, Springfield. It seems like it's covering all of them. Teresa, thank you for putting up the link. So Teresa has just put up the link on mass.gov for the Lawyer of the Day programs. Some people are putting up some times for certain areas of when the Lawyers of the Day are in. Thank you for that, Mark. And Lynette, yes, I will circle back with Mary from PPAL or Lisa and see if this is available as a link. Or if not, I will make a photo of it or some sort of copy, and I'll post it in here for people to have. And what else? Was there anything else that was related to this? No, I don't think so. So if anybody has any specific questions, please feel free to put them up there. Now I'm probably going to log off. We've been on for about 40 minutes. But it's not like there's already a great community of people on here. Some that it seems like have been through this and can be really, maybe somebody that you can reach out to either in this chat or directly and ask some questions. I know I personally have found some of my greatest information from just reaching out to people that I see online that have gone through something that I'm facing or I'm thinking about. And so that's really what From Barriers to Bridges is meant to be, is a forum for us to be able to connect. So definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to connect back with me. Again, this was part of a great presentation that was put on by the Parent and Professional Advocacy League. If you are not part of their listserv, you can access it on ppal.net and sign up for their emails. They have their statewide meeting. I think it's the first or second Tuesday of the month. I think it's the second Tuesday of the month in Framingham. Typically, there is a person that comes in and there's a speaker, and then there's lunch served. People have an opportunity to meet and talk and network with each other. And then there's a business meeting, which is a really excellent place to hear about things that are happening. If there are bills that are coming up, if there are like bills in terms of laws that are coming up, advocacy, they do tons and tons of advocacy. I know the past couple of years, they've really been working closely on the boarding crisis and all of that. So definitely link up with PPAL. I will post all of the links that I put out because I know I like flew through them, but I'm going to put the links for all of them up. I thank all of you for joining me tonight, and I hope that this has been a helpful conversation. In the future, if you are not getting notifications of me coming on live, people often ask me after I go off, they realize that they're not on live with me at the same time. So the menu button, which is the three dots in the top right corner, if you click on that and then click to turn on notifications, you'll be notified whenever I come on live, which is typically Sunday nights at 8:30. This coming Sunday, I have family in town, so I'm not 100% sure if I'll be on, but I'll definitely post and let you guys know if I won't be on. I won't leave you hanging, wondering where I am. So I hope that this has been helpful. The video will be up. Please share it with others. I hope I did a good job explaining the information that I learned and that the resources are really helpful. Guardianship is a huge decision, and it's really important to so many youth and families to help them be supported and for decisions to be made with them. There's lots of ways to think about it and discuss it. So thank you all for joining. I hope to see you all soon, and I'm wishing you all a blessed week. Bye. And over here on YouTube, for my first live on YouTube, I am going to be logging off of here. And so we'll see you guys soon. Oh, and also on for YouTube, before I log off, I just want to say that for more information or to reach me directly, you can contact us through our website at www.pinnaclepartnerships.org. You can contact us directly through that page, or you can send us an email at pinnaclepartnerships@gmail.com, and that's to reach myself, Christy Glenn, or my business partner, Diana Slosher. Hopefully, we will see you all and talk to you soon, and hope this was really helpful information. Thanks.